Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be making a Stussy and ANOTR style deep, minimal, funky, groovy track, whatever you want to call it, from scratch. I'm going to be going from a blank project file. As you can see, I've got some samples and a little bass line prepared, and I'm going to be turning this into a full mastered little template for you. And if you want to hear the finished track, you can hear it at the timestamp at the top of the description now. I'll give you a moment to do that. And yeah, so as usual, you can get the full project file and samples and MIDI and presets, everything that you just heard in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's dive in. So, like I said, I've got this bass line pulled up. This is just something I wanted to prepare ahead of time. Here's what it sounds like. It's like that kind of, very groovy, syncopated sort of feeling bass line. Here are the notes. I'll pitch it up so you can hear. It has a very major sound to it, actually. You can see, it's very simple, very much like just a foundational kind of strong bass line with a nice groove to it as well. The syncopation is definitely, really helpful here, having that, da-da-da, that kind of rhythm. That's where a lot of groove is going to come from, because with this style, what's happening is you essentially have, this kick, which is just doom, 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 doom. And then the bass is, I don't want to say the bass is like the lead, but there's a lot more emphasis on the bass line in this style of house than in other styles. So it's just very much about, getting something like this that, has a really nice groove and can stand on its own. So I'm going to put this down some octaves again. And I'm going to go ahead and make the sound for this. What I'm going to use is we're going to use Operator. And we can actually just do something with some really, really simple FM synthesis. With this style, you just want a fat, kind of round sort of bass line. So what we're going to do here is we've got a sine wave already. And I'm going to just start turning up the second oscillator. And already you can hear this is very similar to a lot of basses you hear in these kind of tracks. And we'll put a little bit of a low pass on it. And also give it a little bit of release. Alright, there we go. So this is very warm and fat sounding. Now what we need underneath this is a sub bass. So I'm going to high pass this a little bit with an EQ8 so that we cut out the low end on this one, because there is still some low end. You can see it's just not as strong. If you look on this, you can literally see this range is louder than the low end. So we're going to cut that out. And then I'm going to make an instrument rack here just by selecting these and hitting Control G or Command G if you're on a Mac. And then we'll pull in another operator here. And this will be the sub. So this is just going to be a simple sine wave. And I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make a really similar sound by getting a square wave. And then we'll low pass it. There we go. And that gives us a really nice even sub. And it pretty much is a sine wave because we've cut it off all the harmonics on top, as you can see. So the way this works is essentially, I've talked about this a bit in my other videos, but if you have a sine wave playing your deep sub like this, you can hear how that was louder than all the other notes. Sometimes sine waves can have kind of an uneven response across different notes. I think it's just because it's literally just one harmonic, it's just a fundamental harmonic. But if you use something like a square wave, and then we low pass it, you get the same sound. You can hear it's a lot more even now. And then if we put this underneath the other bass, we have something really fat and deep. So from here, I'm going to process these two together. We are going to get a bit of drum bus on the group. And I'll also get an EQ to kind of focus it a bit. We will take this to 100 hertz. Cut that. Let's type in 100. And then we'll give it a little bit of a tighter cue, and then I'm going to boost the low end. So what this is doing is, like I said, just focusing the sound. When you use saturation to fatten your sounds up, especially if you're trying to glue two sounds together like this, a lot of times it can create some weird stuff in the low mid-range and in the low end, and 100 hertz, like kind of that range. So let's just focusing this a little bit. You can hear without it. And then with it. So yeah, let's also turn this down a little bit because it's starting to clip. Alright, cool. And then I'll name that really quick. Bass. So from there, we've got the bass. The next thing I'm going to get is this kick. I have a 909 kick here. You can hear this sounds pretty similar to the types of kicks you hear in a lot of these tracks. Again, the low end is really everything here, so, or not everything, but it's a big part of everything. So you really want to have just a solid fat kick like this. And when you use a 909, it gives you that kind of like old school house influence to it, I feel like. Like it just sounds very nostalgic, and it has like that really kind of like just perfect old school house thump to it that is very good in the style of music. Like there's a lot of old school house influence going on here. And yeah, I find these kind of like really hard hitting, banging 909 kicks fit really well under kind of like smoother house tracks like this. So here's what that sounds like. I'll put a bit of drum bass on that to fatten it up. I use drum bass on everything, but I mean, it just sounds so good. Nice, and I always like to check on my monitors as well. I never like to just do like the mix on one thing. Like if you just do it on headphones, or if you just do it on monitors, or if you just do it on whatever it could potentially be, it's not gonna reach its like full potential. I feel like when you do that, you kind of limit yourself because you're only hearing it on one thing. Versus if you take some time, listen to it on your monitors, listen to it on headphones, maybe listen to it on car speakers, whatever it may be. You get a more like overall view of what it really sounds like versus just like, okay, this just sounds good on my headphones. Let me just export it real quick. Ooh, I'm gonna EQ the kick a little bit as well. We can actually cut a little bit of the low end to kind of let the bass have more room. And we'll cut a little bit of low mid range as well. Cool, and then I'm gonna put these in a group together. We will put a bit of saturation on the group. I'm gonna do like nice, and then I'm also gonna put a little bit of EQ going into that because we can use this to kind of cut the low mid range a little and make it a little bit less muddy. This is really like where the finesse comes in with the style. It's just trying to get these to hit the way you need them to and not be muddy. It's like when you use saturation, like we're using 3 things in saturation to fatten all this stuff up. You're gonna have little things in the low mid range and mud and stuff like that added to the mix. But if you can clean it up and just do this every step of the way, then you can see you can still get a really clean sound while getting the impact and power that the saturation will give your sounds. And I like doing this going into the saturation because the way saturation works, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with like, I don't know, like guitar pedals, stuff like that, basically it's like how much signal you put into it. So if you put a very loud sound into the saturation, you're going to get a very distorted sound. If you put a very quiet sound into the saturation, you're not going to get a very distorted sound. So it's just kind of like cleaning out this little thing going into there so that it's just getting less of that frequency range, and that frequency range is getting saturated less, and then you'll get an overall cleaner sound. And then also put an EQ8 after, just kind of boosting the low end. Turn that down a little bit too. I'm also going to boost the mid-range. This helps for punch. There's a lot of punch in that range in the kick. Alright, cool. Just checking on the monitors really quick. So now I'm going to go through and kind of work with this a bit. I'm also going to turn down the gate on my voice a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to work with this bass sound a bit and make it a little bit more like plucky. Like we could take this and kind of work with the envelope. Kind of make something like that. I'll give it a low pass with an envelope as well. Yeah, you can hear that, like, pluckiness really helps when you have a sound like this, or when you have a bass line like this, because now you can really hear the definition between those notes. And the bass is going to sound fatter now, also because I used a bit more saturation with the drum bus, but because now there's more harmonic content going on in this bass. And I think I'm also going to add a drum bus on the group actually after the saturator. I will just turn the drive down a bit, and I'm going to use the transients on there. Alright, there we go. So you can hear the saturator does add a lot still, even though it's turned down a little bit. It really, like, fills these out, and then the drum bus just makes them hit a little bit harder. But yeah, I've made a lot of tracks in the style, and I feel like this is really, like, where the finesse comes in. Like I said, it's just, like, getting the kick and bass to be really clean, but still really full and really fill out the mix like this. Alright, cool, sounding pretty good. So now we've got that stuff going. We got a nice little foundation to build on here. And it sounds good on both monitors and headphones. From here, I'm going to go in and start working with the rest of the drums. I like to really build it from the ground up in the most literal sense. You know, it's like I'll start with the bass and then the kick, and then we start building the drums on top of that. And what happens when you do it this way is you get a much more, like, kind of accurate view of everything, because you're working from the most basic thing up to the, I don't want to say least important things, but kind of like the last things of importance, you know, like maybe the last thing will be like adding effects and like little incidental sounds here and there and stuff. But by starting really with the main, like, base of the track, like really starting with the groove, you can get, like, again, you just get a stronger track. I find every time if I start with like a percussion loop or like a melodic idea or whatever, it doesn't come out as good as when I do it this way. And you can have an idea that you start with, but then what I'll do is, like, I'll have the melodic idea, and then I'll just put it to the side and set this stuff up, and then bring it back in later. It's like, you really want to just start with this stuff. But cool, I'm going to get the clap in here now. We will just put in some notes here. Sounds cool, and then I'm also going to get this open hi-hat. Let's pitch that up a little. And then I'll shorten it a little as well. And then let's get those in a group. So what I'm doing right now is called bussing. You may have heard of this. Essentially, it's where you take like multiple sounds that are kind of in the same style and put them in a group together and process them as one. Like in this case, with the first one, we have the low end bus. I can name that. Low end bus. And then this will be the percussion bus. And when you do it this way, what happens is you get like a more together sound. A lot of times people talk about like, how do I make my percussion sounds sound like they're all coming from the same place and make them all sound like they're in the same world, so to speak. Well, this is how you do it, is by processing them together and kind of treating them all as one thing. It's going to make it all a lot more close together, and you'll see as we keep going here. But I'm going to put a little bit of processing on here. We'll give it a drum bus. Again, drum bus is just so good for making all your sounds like really glued together. Nice, and we could get some of these hi-hats here as well to kind of fill it in a bit. I will get a drum rack. And we'll get those. And then I'll also put this percussion in here. I have like 4 percussion sounds here that we can drop in. And we'll have them all in one place. So I like using drum racks for stuff like this. You guys have probably seen this if you've seen my other videos where I've used them before. But it's like, drum racks are not really the best for when you're trying to just put all your drums in one place. Like, I wouldn't recommend doing the kick and hi-hat and clap and all that stuff in this drum rack. But if you have just like a few percussion sounds or something like that, it can be a really good way to make your own loop. And what it makes it really easy to do is kind of just have it all in one place so you can make everything work together. And you'll see that here. So like, we'll start throwing some stuff in. That's cool. Alright, so it's got a nice groove to it. So again, this, you can see, like, this is a really nice way to work with it, because if I, like, say I just went here, I made a bunch of MIDI tracks and had all the percussion on that, it's like, I guess you can do the thing where you see the notes at the same time like that, but it's just not the same as having it all in this one place. Like, it really feels like I'm making a more cohesive loop this way. And yeah, that sounds really cool. So from there, I think I'll also play with these hi-hats a little. Like, we'll have something maybe like this. I've noticed this in a lot of ANOTR tracks. Put a little high pass on that, and then we can throw in these other hi-hats here and there. Cool, and then I'll play with the sound a little bit. I'm going to try and tighten it up. But having that hi-hat that's just going tss, 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 a lot of people don't think with that, because when you hear house tracks, you know, you just hear like and like a bunch of percussion. Having this underneath there adds a lot of energy. You'll see in a second. I'll show you. If I take this out, it's not going to be doing like the beat is not going to feel nearly as much as energetic. There we go. So yeah, I'll show you what I mean. If I turn this hi-hat off and then turn it on. Here when I turned that on, it like all came to life. Or not like it all came to life, but you can feel like it really picks up the energy there. Cool, but sounds pretty nice. From here, I'm going to add another layer in the percussion, which is going to be some FM percussion using operator. I want to make something that's just kind of playing on all the upbeats. Like, what key are we in again? F. So I can just put something on F here. Not every upbeat, but like every other upbeat, I suppose. But like, if we just have something like, yeah, we can make something like that. And that adds to the energy a lot too, because you have this thing constantly repeating. And while everything else is kind of jumping around, you have one thing in the middle of the mix that you know is like, this is exactly going to hit at this time, every time. So the way I'm going to make this is we're going to shorten the envelope on the sine wave here. And then we can kind of play with the octaves here. And you can hear when you do that, like when you have this one way higher than the second one here, you get kind of a cool sound. Like, it doesn't so much sound like a synth anymore as that's just like some cool sort of metallic percussion. Maybe we'll do like this. Nice, and I'll play with the sound a little bit more. Do some like detune stuff. Yeah, that sounds cool. This is where you can really go crazy with FM too. Like, you can make these sounds that wouldn't normally work. Turn up the feedback on this chorus here. There we go, and then this filter will kind of dial it back a little, so it's not so in your face. Sounds pretty good. So at this stage, I'm going to turn the percussion and low end bus down. Yeah, I try to keep it so I'm hitting between like -4 and -6 on the master. So right there is pretty good. Like, usually what that means is -5, but this will keep everything clean. It's like, if you let everything just clip and say, oh, I'm going to touch it later, I'm going to turn everything down later, what happens is when you add something, you can't hear anything. Like, if everything is just already clipped out at the loudest possible volume, or even just clipping a little bit, when you add something, it's not going to add to the track. It's going to take away from it. This way, when we add something, even if for better or for worse, it's going to actually add something and not get in the way. So, cool. So now we have a groove. We have this cool little house track here, and we have something to really build on and really turn into a full track. You know, like I said, if you start with a foundation like this, it's going to make the whole process so much easier. So, the next thing I'm going to make here is I'm going to make a little, like, chord sound. I kind of have this idea. I want to get operator here, and what I'm thinking is we can actually do like some white noise, and I'll actually just make it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it through a resonator here. Like, we just get the resonator, and we will tune it to F, which is the key of this track. And maybe we'll make it like a... Maybe something like that. Or we could do a minor chord as well. We could do like that. Let's go to D minor. That'd be the relative minor of F. Let's do F major. And I'll make it an F major 7 chord. Maybe even F major 9. Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. And I'm going to dial this in a little bit here. And then, like, what we can do is you can see by moving this filter, we get, like, a lot of different types of sounds. So my idea here is to take this and just put in like a note like that, and then I can automate the filter to kind of give it like a cool rhythm. So let's play around with that. I will take this, show automation, and then maybe we'll do like yeah, like even just something like that little movement, you know, it'll give us a more interesting kind of chord sound. And then we can refine it. Yeah, we can just play around with it. So, yeah, you can see you can make some pretty interesting stuff this way. It's like I'm trying to think outside of the box. I'm trying not to just make it like just, you know, simple chord steps and a simple bass line and simple drums. But it's like kind of doing techniques like this. Because, I mean, with this style, you know, truth be told, if you want to make something that's really boring and cookie cutter, you can. But I'm not really in the business of doing that. I like to make stuff that's a little bit more interesting and just get creative with it. So this sounds good. Let's get a little echo on that as well. Like, I'll turn off the sync and we could do like that. Kind of give it something a little bit more metallic. And I'll also put a bit of drum bass on there to fatten it up. And then I'm also going to sidechain this a little to the kick, with just one compressor. But I think that will kind of help to fit it into the groove a little. Yeah, so there we go. Nice. And then I'll put this through a bit of reverb as well before the drum bus. Alright, sounds cool. And then we're going to make another chord stab. We're going to have a few going on here. It's not going to be just this one. But for this next one, I'm going to use operator. I'm going to try to make something kind of minor sounding because we can do like a G sharp minor chord. And let's actually try switching this to a minor chord, because we really could just do G sharp minor for both of these. It's a bit more free in this style when you're kind of just like, you know, playing around with different harmonic things over this bass line that's just kind of like going over and over. Yeah, let's do that. Sounds cool, and then let's play with some FM for this. I like using FM to make these chord stabs, because like if you just start using saw waves and square waves for them, it can get kind of generic. Oh, that's cool. Let's put a bandpass on it. Give it like a little pluck. And I'll bring that out a bit more. Let's put some chorus on it as well. And then what I can also do is put a little bit of an LFO on the filter cutoff. This isn't going to be to give it like a super obvious huge modulation or anything like that, but just to give it a little bit more movement and kind of make it so it's not exactly in the same place the whole way through. You know, it kind of makes it just feel a little bit more alive. Maybe we'll do even more. Yeah, that sounds really cool. And also, I hope you guys, like, part of the reason why I make these kinds of videos is because I want you to see the process. Like, when I just make a loop and then explain it to you, I don't think you see this stuff. But notice how what I'm doing here is I'm not just, like, you know, trying to exactly make what I hear in my head. I'm kind of more so just playing around with different things. Like the rate on the LFO, you know, at first I had it slow, which was kind of in my mind what I thought I was going to do, but it didn't sound like I wanted it to. So I just tried speeding it up just to see what would happen. And I got like that cool modulation where it feels like the sound is moving in a way that I never would have pictured before. Like that and stuff, I feel like I wouldn't have come up with that if I wasn't like actively trying to just see what would come out rather than try and make something exactly how it is in my head and then get upset when it doesn't work out. Yeah, that's good. So if I'm learning anything doing this stuff, it's like, you definitely need to keep that in mind. Like, I am more for happy accidents than I do for, like, exact, precise recreations of what I hear in my head. Alright, and then let's actually get that sidechain a little bit the same way I have that other chord stab sidechain. I think I'm going to space that out a little bit more as well. Like, what if we do something like this? And then we can maybe do something in that part with a different type of sound to make it a little bit more interesting. Like maybe I'll get just a synth that goes. Yeah, that's cool. And then we can kind of play with that sound a bit. Like, maybe I'll make that white noise as well. Put it through a low pass with an envelope. And then we can put that through a resonator. But I won't do a chord. I'll just tune it to F. Put it on the B mode. That sounds cool. You know, it doesn't have to always be a chord stab. You could just do something like this. And we can even maybe play with this too. And try just doing like the root note in the fifth. Now let's do that. And I can put that down to F. Alright, there we go. So then I'll name those as well. Stab 1, stab 2, and then we'll get stab 3. And also, you guys may see me typing a little hashtag before all of these here. So the reason why I do that is because if you put that before the name on your track, what will happen is when you move it, it just changes the number based on wherever you are. So when it's up here, it's at 11. When it's down here, it's number 4. If you just name it, like say I just want this to be number 11, I just name it 11. Then when I move it and it's number 4 on the track, it still says 11. So yeah, just kind of like a nice little Ableton tip there. Definitely helps me to organize my stuff. Alright, sounding good. So at this stage, it is time for arrangement. Not bad for 38 minutes worth of work. So, first thing I'm going to do for the arrangement here is what I usually do, which is I'll take this idea. So this is usually where I'm at when I'm trying to make the arrangement. We start with the most foundational elements, get a nice loop going, and then now what I'll do is I'll take the loop and cut it and just paste it like over here. And what we can do is we can just grab like one element, like in almost every single case, I will use the kick. We just grab the kick. And maybe we can grab like some of the bass line, like it won't be every note. Maybe it could just be that ba-do-do. But there we go. Now we have the start to the track. And maybe we'll get one more thing, like let's get the clap and that little operator thing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to save the bass line for there. But there we go. We have the start to the track. You know, I mean, it's pretty easy with dance music because you have, like, it needs to have an intro for DJs and all that kind of stuff. But you can see when you start just grabbing one thing, putting it at the start, you will come up with a lot of ideas. And it really, like, it's just all about getting yourself started. I think a lot of times people think song arrangement is so hard. Because, truth be told, they're just overthinking it. It's like, if you think too much about it, you're never going to get anything done. If you just say, I'm just going to start with the kick and the clap and this little percussion, there we go. We start getting ideas. Like, I get the idea to do part of the bass line, to put part of the bass line there. So now we have 16 bars. You know, just stuff like that. It really does come together a lot quicker than you think. And we can maybe take the bass, do like that, and then I'll copy this open hi-hat to start here. And we can also get like some of the percussion. We won't use it all here, but maybe we could use like this bell. And like that one percussion, and then the hi-hat. Maybe we can even use more of the bass notes there. Like we'll have that, and we could use like that. And then here we'll get the full bass. Or maybe we'll only use like part of it still. And we'll get like one of the stabs too, like we could use this one. I'll even get like this one too. Alright, cool. So yeah, we're just kind of like building up the arrangement here as the track goes on. Maybe here we'll like cut out the kick. And then we'll keep this going into the break here. So we'll keep the percussion going as it was, and we will get the full bass line here. And then we'll get like the stabs, like we'll use these two first. And then everything will come in here. And then what I'll also do there is we're going to have the hi-hats, or the percussion I should say, filtering down a little bit, but then on top of that, what I'll do, we'll have this cut right there at that bar. On top of that, what I'll do is we'll have like a reverb automation. So it'll cut down there and then come back up right as the drop comes. And then what we can do is, like I said, we can do a little bit of a reverb automation. So I'll just put a reverb on there, and we'll have that dry wet just going up. And then it'll go down like right when this starts here. Now let's keep the bass going there. Nice, then we come back in really strong. And you can hear also now the groove is a lot stronger because we have all this percussion coming in here. So that's another thing. It's like kind of saving things. Like I teased the percussion in this part, but we don't get that full loop until here. So kind of a nice way to do it where it doesn't like give it away too soon, and then when this comes in, it's so much more effective. And then we'll copy this stuff over here. I'll just have these stabs for the second half. We won't use the third one. Alright, cool. So now we just need to add a few little extra elements here and there, like I'm going to make a droning sound, so we'll put this at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get operator. And we're going to make this like FM sort of detuned thing. And then let's do another oscillator. Detune that one even more. There we go. So you can hear those two oscillators detuning off of each other. And then, there we go. And then we'll put this through a bandpass filter. Just kind of like do like that. Maybe I'll dial this back a little. Alright, there we go. And then we can put this through some reverb. And some chorus as well. And then I'll put a high pass on it. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put an LFO on the filter a little bit to kind of give it some movement. So we will just do that. Let's turn that off on the oscillator pitches. There we go. So this will just be something like, it's going to be very little and in the background. But you can see it's just going to add a bit of life to the track because we can have this going throughout here. We'll put it there. And then it'll pitch up to here when that part comes. Nice. And then we can get a low pass on there, just kind of bringing it up through like this first part here. And I'm also going to put an auto pan on there, and we're going to have it like set like this. So we're going to turn the phase down and set this to the saw waveform. We're going to invert it, and then we're going to put it on quarter notes. And if we turn up this amount here, you'll hear this gives it like this almost like sidechain-esque pulse. So I'll put it there. It's going to add a lot of rhythm going into the break. And then we'll also go pass it down toward the end there. And there we go. Then it kind of gives us something to build a little bit of tension in there. And kind of like, you know, it feels like it's kind of breathing a little bit more. Instead, we have a lot of other sounds that are just very quick and syncopated and choppy, like the stabs and the bass line. But with this, it's kind of like sitting over the whole thing and just giving it that, like I said, something that breathes. The other thing I'm going to add here is I'm going to give it a little bit of white noise right when this drops. And what I mean by this is we're going to get operator. We're going to switch this to white noise. Let's grab that same auto pan, actually, so it sounds like a sidechain. And then we will high pass this. Like that. And then I'm going to put a bit of chorus on this. So we will get the chorus, and I'll turn the feedback up. And we get kind of like this cool, sort of interesting sound. And then what I'm going to do is just going to go like, just like that right at the start. Just like a psh, right as it's getting started there for the drop. It's kind of like a simple, subtle little transition there. And we'll put it here, and we can maybe make it a little bit longer. Alright, sounds cool. So at this stage, we've got the full track. Now what we need to do is get it mastered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything. I'm going to make sure it's not hitting too loud, which you can see. It's not. It's still around -5, like I said. And cool. So first thing to get on here is just a little bit of an EQ8. I'm just going to turn the gain down a bit. We're going to boost the high end, boost the low end, and then cut the low mid-range. So what this is doing is it's going to cut some mud out of the mix by cutting that low mid-range. We're not doing a lot, but just a little bit to cut some mud. It's going to boost the low end and boost the high end. So it's just focusing the track. Here's without it. and then with it. So you can hear, just kind of enhances the sound of the track a little bit. From there, I'm going to get a saturator. We are going to turn this up +3, and then put the output down -2. Cool, so here's before this. And then with it, so you can hear this fattens everything up. When you put everything through a bit of saturation like this at the same time, everything is going to be a lot fatter and just feel a lot more together. From there, I'm going to get a bit of compression, and we're just going to balance out the mix a little bit. I'm going to turn up the attack so that we're not messing up the transients on any of our sounds. And cool, so like I said, this is just balancing out the mix a bit. Now it feels a lot more even, and like everything has a lot more of an even place in the mix. From there, the last thing to get on here is just a limiter, and with this, I'm going to turn it up +5. We're going to boost it a bit so that the mix is really pushing. And now you can hear we have a hard-hitting and balanced sounding track. The limiter is just going to give it that last little volume boost while still pushing it a little. So we get that kind of professional fullness in the track. Cool, so there it is. We went and made a full track from start to finish. Here we go. Now it's time to hear the track. Awesome, so nice little kick cut at the end. So there it is, we've got the full track. That is what we made. Yeah, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file and samples and MIDI and presets, all of that stuff from this video in the description. So if you want to turn this into a full track on your own, go ahead. Maybe you just want like this really nice fat 909 kick. Maybe you just want to take the bass. Whatever it may be, you can get all that in the description. Definitely check that out. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check that because it's already available. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.